Did you know that Indonesia has more active volcanoes than any other country on Earth, and that entire cities sit on the slopes of mountains that could erupt without warning? That its capital is sinking so fast, the government has already started building a brand new one from scratch in the middle of the jungle, and that its waters hold more marine life than anywhere else on the planet, a single reef system packed with more fish species than the entire Caribbean Sea combined. Indonesia is not just beaches and rice terraces, it is fire, it is chaos, and it is a country that breaks nearly every rule of geography we take for granted. Get ready, because today you're going to discover 15 facts that prove why no other country on Earth is built quite like Indonesia. 15. The Nation of Fire. Indonesia sits directly on the Ring of Fire, and it holds the record for the most active volcanoes of any country on the planet, around 127 of them capable of erupting at any given moment. That's more active volcanoes than the entire United States has, active or dormant combined. Millions of people live within sight of these mountains, farming the slopes because volcanic ash creates some of the richest soil on Earth. I've seen photos of rice paddies climbing right up the side of a smoking crater, farmers working calmly while smoke drifts over their fields. It's a strange kind of trust, building your whole life next to something that could bury you in ash by morning. Indonesia doesn't fight its volcanoes, it farms them. 14. The invisible line that splits two worlds. Running straight through the Indonesian archipelago is the Wallace line, named after the naturalist who first mapped it in the 1800s. On one side of this line, the wildlife looks like Asia: tigers, elephants, rhinos, monkeys you'd expect to see in Thailand or India. Cross a strait barely 20 miles wide near Bali and Lombok, and suddenly you're staring at animals that belong in Australia: marsupials, cockatoos, creatures found nowhere else in Asia. The water there stayed too deep during the ice ages for anything to walk across, even when sea levels dropped low enough to connect most of the region by land bridges. Two entirely different animal kingdoms, separated by a channel you could swim across on a calm afternoon. 13. The sinking capital. Jakarta, home to more than 10 million people, is sinking at a rate of up to 10 inches a year in some neighborhoods, making it one of the fastest sinking cities on Earth. Parts of North Jakarta already flood with seawater during high tide, and some buildings have sunk so low that their ground floors are now permanently underwater. The problem got so severe that the government made the almost unthinkable call to abandon Jakarta as the capital entirely and build a brand new one, named Nusantara, on the island of Borneo, over 800 miles away. It's one of the only times in modern history a country has simply given up on its capital city and started fresh in raw jungle. Before we go further, take a second to subscribe and hit the like button, because the facts only get stranger from here. The archipelago too big for one clock. Indonesia is the largest archipelago nation on the planet, made up of more than 17,000 islands, though only around 6,000 of them are actually inhabited. Stretching from west to east, the country spans roughly 3,200 miles, wider than the distance from New York City all the way to Los Angeles. Because it stretches across such a massive slice of ocean, Indonesia has to run on 3 separate time zones just to keep one nation operating on schedule. Picture that for a second. The sun rises on one island a full 2 hours before it rises on another, and both places fly the exact same flag and answer to the exact same government. 11. The lizard that shouldn't exist. Komodo Island is the only place on Earth where you'll find the Komodo dragon living in the wild, a lizard that can grow up to 10 feet long and weigh as much as 150 pounds, roughly the size of an adult human. Their bite delivers venom that stops blood from clotting, and they've been documented taking down water buffalo weighing 10 times their own body weight, tracking the wounded animal for days until it finally collapses. I can't think of another country where the warning sign at a nature reserve is genuinely something you should take seriously. 10. The richest waters on the planet. Indonesia sits at the heart of what marine biologists call the Coral Triangle, home to more species of coral and reef fish than anywhere else on Earth. Over 600 species of coral alone, roughly 76% of every known coral species on the planet packed into one region. One dive site off the coast of Raja Ampat can show you more biodiversity in a single afternoon than an entire week of diving in the Caribbean Sea. Marine biologists travel from every continent just to study reefs that most tourists have never even heard of. Remember to hit subscribe and drop a like if you're enjoying this one, because the top 10 is where things get even wilder. the lake that almost ended humanity. Deep in Sumatra sits Lake Toba, the largest volcanic lake on Earth, stretching about 62 miles long and 19 miles wide, roughly the size of the state of Rhode Island. It was carved out by a supervolcano eruption approximately 74,000 years ago, an eruption so massive that some scientists believe it plunged the entire planet into a volcanic winter and reduced the global human population down to just a few thousand survivors. Every single person alive today may be descended from that small group who made it through. Standing on that shoreline, you're looking at the site of the closest call our species has ever faced. 8. The temple buried by ash. Borobudur is the largest Buddhist temple on Earth, built in the 9th century, then abandoned and swallowed by jungle growth and volcanic ash for centuries before it was rediscovered in the 1800s. The structure contains over 2 million stone blocks and more than 500 Buddha statues, all built without a single drop of cement or mortar holding any of it together. It's larger than any single Buddhist monument in China, larger than anything in Thailand, and for hundreds of years, nobody even remembered the temple was there, buried under layers of ash and vegetation. 7. The last home of the orangutan. Wild orangutans exist in only 2 places left on the entire planet, the islands of Sumatra and Borneo, and nowhere else on Earth. An adult male orangutan can have an arm span stretching over 7 feet across, wider than most NBA players are tall. Watching one move through the rainforest canopy on arms that long feels like watching an animal built for a completely different scale of forest, one where every branch is a highway. Their populations keep shrinking as the rainforest disappears, making these 2 islands the final stronghold for a species with nowhere else left to go. 6. The flower that smells like death. The Rafflesia arnoldi grows only in the rainforests of Sumatra and Borneo, and its blooms can reach up to 3 feet across, making it the largest single flower on the entire planet. It has no stem, no leaves, and no roots of its own, since it survives entirely as a parasite living off host vines buried in the forest floor. And it smells, on purpose, exactly like rotting meat, all to attract the flies that pollinate it in the wild. Imagine hiking through dense jungle and stumbling onto something the size of a car tire that smells like roadkill. 5. The country split by the equator. The equator physically cuts straight through Indonesia, crossing the islands of Sumatra, Borneo, and Sulawesi in 3 separate places. In the city of Pontianak, there's an actual monument marking the exact line, and on the equinox each year, you can stand right on that spot and watch your own shadow disappear completely at high noon. It's one of the rare places on Earth where you can literally stand with 1 foot planted in the northern hemisphere and 1 foot in the southern hemisphere at the exact same time. 4. The glaciers on the equator. Despite sitting almost entirely within the tropics, Indonesia has actual glaciers. On the island of Papua, Puncak Jaya rises to nearly 16,000 feet, making it the highest peak located between the Himalayas and the Andes Mountains. Near its summit sit the Karstens Glaciers, patches of permanent ice sitting just a few hundred miles from the equator itself. Climbers who attempt this summit go from sweating through dense tropical rainforest at the base of the mountain to standing on genuine glacial ice near the top, all within the same climb, on the same mountain, practically on the equator line. Before we get to the top 3, and trust me, these last ones are worth sticking around for, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It genuinely helps this channel keep making videos like this one. 3. The mountain that burns blue at night. On the island of Java sits Kawah Ijen, a volcanic crater famous for something that looks pulled straight out of a science fiction film. After dark, sulfur deposits around the crater burn with electric blue flames, caused by sulfuric gases combusting as they escape through cracks in the earth at extremely high temperatures. Miners still climb down into this crater by hand every night to harvest raw sulfur, carrying loads of up to 200 pounds down the mountain on their shoulders, breathing toxic fumes for wages most Americans would consider unthinkable for the risk involved. It's one of the only places on Earth where a mountain genuinely burns blue in total darkness. 2. The nation of 1,000 tongues. Indonesia is the most populous Muslim majority country on Earth, home to more Muslims than Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Egypt combined. But it's also home to over 700 living languages, more than any country on the planet except its neighbor Papua New Guinea. On some islands, a village just a few miles from its neighbor can speak a language that's completely unintelligible to the town next door. A level of linguistic diversity packed into a footprint smaller than most American states could ever claim. The water system built 1,000 years ago. Carved into the hillsides of Bali is Subak, an irrigation network for rice terraces designed over 1,000 years ago, so precise and so well engineered that it's recognized by UNESCO as a masterpiece of human cooperation. Water flows down through the terraces using nothing but gravity and community coordination between farmers, a system so balanced that people still rely on it today exactly as it was designed centuries ago, with no modern pumps required anywhere in the process. Put all 15 of these together, the volcanoes, the sinking capital, the invisible line splitting Asia from Australia, the dragons, the reefs, the glaciers sitting near the equator, and it starts to make sense why Indonesia doesn't fit into any normal category of country. Most nations get defined by a single mountain range, one coastline, or one dominant culture. Indonesia gets defined by extremes stacked directly on top of each other, all packed into more than 17,000 islands scattered across 3 time zones. There is no other country on the map built quite like it, and there probably never will be. After learning these 15 facts about Indonesia, tell us which one surprised you the most. Leave it in the comments, and let's see how many of us picked the same one. And if you think we missed something, or you've got your own fact about Indonesia to add, we'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching.